Hi there, and welcome on the journey to transform culture. I'm Steve, and I'll be your guide. Well, folks, today let's talk about some things that get in the way of an organization's ability to transform. And one of those things seems pretty obvious at first glance, but it's kind of a delicate thing to disentangle, if you will. And it is really eroding that wall between us and them. You know, that one that if you're in the employee workforce, you're seeing yourself as us, and the management team as them, even the ownership. And likewise, if you're on the leadership team or the ownership, you might see yourself as us, and the broader employee pool as them. It doesn't really matter where you are in that spectrum, but it is problematic because just like any team, until the two can become one team, right? Until I use basketball analogy because I was a basketball guy, but until your point guards and your shooting guards and your forwards and your center stop seeing themselves as their position and start to see themselves as a cohesive team, one unit, with valuable parts, then you're not going to be able to overcome yourselves, and in a basketball analogy, to exceed certain score or to beat, particular competition and that sort of thing. And that is exactly the same in organizations of all types. Until you're able to kind of set the ego down, right? Some of it's ego, some of it's fear. I'd say a lot of it's fear because it's rooted in this fear that somehow if I'm more vulnerable to open up, right? I've come across, leaders and organizations who didn't really know the struggles and the challenges and the work that the broader employees were doing and the things that they had to go through to achieve certain objectives, right? There's a disassociation there. Well, that's not my job, that's their job, right? But if you flip that, you can see real quickly where the broader workforce would say, well, coming up with ideas and overcoming some of these other challenges, little more external, that's really not that's not my expertise, that's their expertise. But the reality is we are all customers. We all consume products and services. It's just a fact. We do. And if you're a consumer of any type, you've got an opinion. You have an observation. You have a feeling about a thing, right? And the moment you start to snip off and cut off how valuable you think you are to an organization because of your position or your role, or because, well, I don't do that thing, I do this thing, so I don't want to, step on their toes. When we start getting into that, now granted, we want to be professional, we want to be amicable with everybody and get along, right? This isn't about, poking our noses in and being, snobby to anybody or being rude or anything like that. This is about sometimes asking a question for clarity will get everybody to kind of examine a situation a little more closely. You may not have the answer to a particular problem, but you may see challenges and constraints that are hampering the team. And what that means is that you have to get over yourself, essentially, okay? And you have to get over yourself and your sensibilities and be willing to dive in and say, look, I don't have the solution. You can qualify it. I don't have the solution, folks. But this is what I see as a challenge for us, and I'm not quite certain how to overcome it. What do you guys think? What do the rest of the team think? This sort of approach is great. Enter into it in a very questioning, kind of way, in a unassuming way, because odds are you probably don't have the answer, but you may be part of the solution as people start to. Now, you may have some ideas about a solution, And that's great, but start out with a question, right? Start out with saying, hey, I don't know if what I'm seeing is what I'm saying here, but this seems to be occurring and it doesn't seem to be helping us. Oh, I see the same thing. Yeah, I see the same thing. Well, what ideas can we come up with, to overcome this? And then what you might find is somebody has an idea, they have an idea, somebody over here has an idea. Now, ultimately, if you have some really good ideas, sometimes it will come down to the leader having to decide on a particular path, right? And that's fine. The whole point, though, isn't that, well, my idea gets picked over your idea. The point is that we resolve the issue, right? Best idea wins. I don't care whose idea it is. I've always been that person who said, I don't care whose idea it is, as long as it's the best idea we can come up with in time to resolve the issue. And then we'll go with that, right? And then if we have, conflicting ideas, I won't say conflicting, but competing ideas, then guess what? You make a judgment call and you've got a backup plan if a particular idea doesn't work out the way you think. That being said, we all have to invest in the path forward. We can't be holdouts because our idea isn't necessarily picked up on or that sort of thing, right? So we have to be just as humble, going beyond, you may have seen the problem. And that was, that was your critical piece of the puzzle. And you have some ideas of how to overcome it, and others might as well. You guys come up with a whole new way to resolve it. The idea is to have a comfortable grip on issues and not a too tight of a grip. You have too tight of a grip, then you get too stiff, then you get too entrenched, the ego starts to step in there. Now what is it? Do I just want attention or do I want to solve the problem, right? And I think this is sometimes what happens is we overcompensate within our own heads and our own hearts when we stifle ourselves because we go, well, I don't want people to think that, that my ego's running roughshod here. So I'm going to pull back and not be as forthcoming or offer up as much as others may and that sort of thing. Well, it's a fine line. You got to temper it, right? And so this is where having a comfortable grip, not a too tight of a grip on trying to solve an issue is important. So if you take that approach, it's a healthy approach. It's one that everybody gets to contribute. You can validate if everyone's seeing the same thing you're seeing, right? Even better if you have some way to pull data, right? To go, okay, what's going on here? And then, because the other part of this is some of the issues that you may be bringing to light where it becomes sensitive, where people get a little bit skittish, is it may be around somebody else's work, right? So yes, we want to be respectful, we want to be helpful, right? So this is why, hey, is there, maybe there's a way we can, fix this or we can help this situation out, because keep this in mind, that anywhere you have in your value stream, from the time material arrives, the order's made, material arrives until it ships out and gets to your customer's door, in that process, there could be one thing, the slowest activity within that entire process is the thing slowing everyone down, right? We're not judging the person or the people, right? We're judging the activity. Hey, this process doesn't seem to be working as well for so-and-so. Let's all put our heads together and figure out how we can make that process move better. And what you find is once you do this and you come up with a better way or a way to overcome that issue, right? The issue that they're dealing with, that they maybe didn't even know they were dealing with the issue. They have no idea potentially that their process is the slower process. They're just doing the work they're doing, right? So this is why it's really good for your team to see what your value stream is and where, the critical phases of, say, production and that sort of thing are. And it wouldn't matter if you're producing something or creating a service. If something sits in a particular person's in basket for a week, and customers are upset because we're not getting their products to them in time or the answers to them and that sort of thing, then we have to look at these things, right? We got to put a clock on these things and go, okay, so what's the challenge here? Well, I have something comes in my in basket, but I got XYZ 1, 2, 3 going on, right? So when we find out, oh my gosh, well, this person's overloaded, right? We need to load level this workflow. So there's a lot of ways to tackle that. But anyway, just wanted to talk to you a little bit today about not falling into the trap of us and them, and don't be skittish about offering up your ideas, your concerns, but to have some humility and be respectful. And the easy way to do that is to keep a comfortable but not too tight of a grip. Don't look for accolades because you've identified a thing, right? Remember, we're trying to help everyone out here, primarily our customers. But the other part of this is that we want to make sure that we're professional, that we're helpful, and we can use kind of a question, not a questioning, but be humble in the sense that I don't know what's the full picture here, but this is what I'm seeing. Is that what you're seeing? Is this the issue you see? And let others throw their input in, and it gives everybody an opportunity. So just wanted to touch on some of those things for you today. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Remember to hit the good domino 3 to 5 times a day to uplift, motivate, inspire, and just encourage folks. And when you do that, not only are we transforming culture, but we're transforming ourselves, and that's an amazing thing. All right, folks. Well, that's all for today. Until next time, hit like, share, and subscribe, and we'll talk to you later.